The retrieve can be absolutely critical, and there's times you want to drag it on the bottom, there's times you want to swim a jig, there's times you want to hop a jig, and normally that's determined by water temperature and the conditions. You know, are you on the front side of a front coming in when they should be real active, or are you the back side when they're not very aggressive? So there's some little keys that in the beginning tell you what you should be doing with the jig, but the bottom line, it's really a seasonal deal overall and a water temperature deal. And I guess the best way I can put it, the warmer the water, the more active you want to be with the jig, the more action you want in that jig trailer-wise. Summertime's a great time to be sweeping it up off the bottom, hopping the bait some. But once it cools down or you get them real adverse conditions or the fish just aren't very aggressive, you just need to crawl it on the bottom and just kind of drag it like that. And that may be what it takes to trigger the strike. So you really need to pay attention on what you were doing with the bait when the fish bit it, because it can make a huge difference. So duplicate whatever you were doing, and right there I was just barely moving it across the bottom, and he decided it looked pretty good, looked like a crawdad. Very critical to duplicate the bite. And always get it lined up. You get a bite out in the middle of nowhere like that, punch it in on your GPS right away. And that way, if you drift off, fighting a big fish, whatever, you'll be able to come right back and make that same cast. So not only do you want to make the same cast, you want to make that same retrieve. So if you were hopping it and you hit it on top of the hop, do a bunch more of that. If you're dragging it like I was right then, that's how you need to keep retrieving for a while. And they'll even get in different moods during the day to where they'll be real active, and you got to trigger those strikes by moving the bait, and then they may get into a non-feeding mode, and the only way you catch them is slowing it down. So the biggest thing I can tell an angler, especially in jig fishing, is don't get in what I call the robot mode, where you're doing the same thing. Keep experimenting, trying different things until you figure out how to trigger the strike.
You know, some of the first spinner baits that I ever threw growing up in Michigan had painted blades on them. The new Strike King Tour Grade painted blade spinner baits, they have that supernatural look. I mean, when you look at the sexy shad color going through the water, it looks like a school of sexy shad.
It's not just a white blade, it's not just a chartreuse blade. It's a, you know, it's got the natural bait fish look.
When we say Tour Grade, when you pull it out of the package, it's ready to go. It's got every possible component at its very top-notch best.